Hello there my friends, and welcome back to another very exciting Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, the one, the only, Star Wars Meg. And today, can I get a this is the way, we're talking about The Mandalorian and Grogu, the next Star Wars movie coming to cinemas in May 2026. In our first official update since Celebration in Japan, we have some brand new HD stills from the teaser trailer, some new details for the movie, some information about a potential Mandalorian trilogy, and a tease from Djarin himself, Pedro Pascal. It seems like that guy is everywhere at the moment, who also recently suggested the movie might be the first place that Grogu says his first words. I predict this movie is going to change these characters, and Grogu may never be the same again. Eventually he will have to speak. He's a Mandalorian apprentice well on the way to becoming the Mandalore someday. I'm telling you guys, he is destined to ride the mythosaur, and because he's a Yoda species, he's going to be around for a very long time. Surely, the next Harvester. So we have a lot to cover. As always, my dear friends, if you're not done so already, please be sure to hit the big subscribe button down below, ring the bell for notifications, but no more jibber jabber, on to Mando and his little green friend, everyone's favourite, Grogu.
Half of it is what's on the screen and the other half is feeling the energy of the crowd.
So my friends, we have some new information from both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Let's start with the lighter stuff, and then we'll talk about some of the bigger reveals. Unsurprisingly, Dave Filoni is in the movie. I'm not talking about his work as a co-writer, or as a producer, or even as the voice of Embo. I'm talking about as Trapper Wolf. Just like in the background of a Delphi base, Dave Filoni returns in the movie with his famous hat. It was rumoured, but now Jon Favreau flat out said it.
We can get an exclusive here. He's in the film.
Oh, really?
And I wear this hat. This is screen used.
And they're already talking about the popcorn buckets for The Mandalorian and Grogu. Surely it's gotta be Grogu in his pram. That was Filoni's suggestion. I guess time will tell. But now onto something big. Jon Favreau's been making the rounds at conventions and film expos, and at Cine Europe, which is the one in Barcelona, he showed a new sizzle reel for the movie. It's believed to be very similar if not identical to the one shown in Japan, but now we have some clearer stills from it, and a much better idea of what we're gonna get in the movie. We've heard rumours, there have been some reports about different cameos, but this has to be one of the best looks yet. This is Mando and Grogu during their mission on the unknown ice planet, one which some fans have assumed is Hoth. Is it possible after the original trilogy, after the death of Palpatine and the rise of the New Republic, that the Remnant has a base there? The answer appears to be yes, and they're flipping the tables of history. After evacuating Yavin base, Hoth is where the Rebel Alliance hid, but now with the Rebels having won at Andor, it's the Remnant who has to hide. And they still have plenty of Imperial technology. And just remember who's leading them following the death of Gideon. More on this later. We see Din taking out an entire squad of snowtroopers. They're going Empire Strikes Back on us. I can definitely imagine a conversation where Jon Favreau asked Dave Filoni, what's considered the best Star Wars movie? What's the consensus? And because so many people say Empire, they were like, we need to bring that aesthetic back. With a 2025 upgrade, all of the new technology that's around, if we're seeing Hoth again on the big screen, a lot of fans are going to be over the moon. The implication of this mission based on everything we've heard and the teasers is that Din is on the hunt for a very specific warlord, the one being played by Johnny Coyne, who by the way is one of the key remnants in charge of financing the Shadow Council's resources. But it seems like Din and Grogu are getting more than they bargained for, because the footage ends with an incredible shot of two massive AT-AT walkers standing directly in their path. It visually looked amazing, my friends, and it's worth noting that the movie was shot on IMAX cameras, so it's gonna look way more cinematic than your average episode on Disney+. Not to disparage the show, I'm a huge fan, but I don't think fans just wanted 2 hours of the TV series. I think there needed to be a reason that it was on the big screen, a justification. It's gotta feel like a movie. And at one stage we see Din Djarin in an AT-ST. The action is set to be pretty impressive, but the movie itself is a bit of an enigma. From all of the rumours, it doesn't sound like it's going to be the 4th season, but in big screen form. It takes place after season 3, but I don't think it's a direct continuation. I don't expect to see Bo-Katan the Armourer, Mandalore, more flashbacks from Grogu's past. The entire thing sounds like one mission, which includes Embo, Rotta, Sigourney Weaver's character, and a couple of other surprises. If they ever do release a season 4, this movie is a bridge between the last season and the 4th. And I suppose a question fans want to see Lucasfilm address is, after the movie, what is the future of Mando? Is it going to continue as a Disney Plus show, or is it just going to be movies? Jon Favreau said it depends on the box office performance. But now, my friends, we have a new update. A new rumor suggests The Mandalorian and Grogu could be a trilogy, but on one condition: the first one performs well. And here's the problem. I'm not too convinced The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to draw in like $1 billion. I've always maintained this isn't the movie they should have come out the gate with after this hiatus. After The Rise of Skywalker, the next movie should have been Star Wars Starfighter. Chronologically, it makes sense. It's a standalone, you've got some big names like Mia Goth and Ryan Gosling, and it isn't tied to a TV show which some fans think has gone downhill. In so many ways, The Mandalorian and Grogu is such a gamble for Lucasfilm. I'm not saying it's going to do badly, but I don't know if the box office is going to be what they expect, or what they want. They shouldn't abandon the show on Disney Plus. They can have 2 different platforms telling this story, each one promoting the other. And with Dave Filoni's future separate Mandoverse movie coming after Ahsoka Season 2, that gives this idea even more momentum. But now, my friends, on to yet another Mandalorian and Grogu update. Pedro Pascal says The Mandalorian and Grogu is one of the greatest adventure movies of all time. And he didn't just say this once, he's repeated it 4 times. It's an immense and grandiose claim. While I don't doubt it's going to be a fun movie, I don't think it's going to be one of the greatest of all time. That is quite the claim, isn't it, my friends? Is he putting it up there with the Indiana Jones films? Pedro also says he cannot confirm nor deny if we're going to see Djarin without his helmet. I think they should have kept the helmet off after Season 2. But with the direction of Season 3, is it time for him to just keep it on? We know for a fact Pedro was on set, so is he going to remove the helmet? Here to discuss this with me is our good friend Matt Rissman. What do you make of Pedro's comments?
My first reaction, I did have to chuckle about it, right? Because I mean, I'm a movie buff. I love adventure movies, right? And I think the reason why he's starting this messaging is they're trying to make sure to manage expectations about what this movie is, which is something we've spoken about before, right? And that doesn't mean it's not going to be a super fun movie to watch, by the way, and it's not going to be a great adventure story. I don't think he's making that part up. But whenever I hear it's the greatest ever, they're trying to compensate here for exactly what the audience should expect this movie is or isn't. And to me, that's what's kind of behind his statement, wanting people, again, like you were just saying, to understand that this is a story in the Mandalorian universe that does have the Mandalorian, that does have Grogu. But again, I've always thought and continue to think it's going to be sort of back to their roots in, going out on a mission, doing something, probably a MacGuffin's involved, you know what I mean? Just very textbook. Let's go out on this mission. Let's get it done. Let's see what we encounter along the way and how much fun we can have doing that. Let's build on the Mando and Grogu relationship. And then let's close the story down. I would expect us to continue to see, as it gets closer, more people, in the press tour, however they're going to market this, saying very similar things, all right, action adventure story, in this, because I don't think they want people to feel like they have to have seen every other piece of Mandalorian content to enjoy this movie.
So my question is, who is this movie for? Because are they targeting the Mando diehards who've watched everything? You're saying no, but then who does that leave? Is it just for the people who are familiar with the aesthetic? They know who Mando is vaguely in pop culture. Everyone knows Baby Yoda or Grogu. Are they targeting those families who want an entrance into Star Wars after the sequel trilogy and weren't too invested in the Disney Plus shows? Or are they targeting the people who know everything about it? And how do they find that balance? Because I would say their best bet is to go heavy on the fans who know everything about Mando, who've seen the 3 seasons, who've watched Book of Boba Fett, and who want the next chapter. Because it's us, the diehards, who are going to be left behind if the movie doesn't land.
I totally agree with you. If someone had anointed me in charge of whatever this was going to be, I would have wanted to put something out there on the big screen that helps advance the story they've been telling from a Mandalorian and Grogu perspective. The Mandalorian content has had some ups and downs through Book of Boba Fett, through Mandalorian Season 3. It has a little tarnish to it since we left the days of Mandalorian Season 2. But having said all that, what they seem to be doing is trying to get a renewed interest in Star Wars as as a franchise by putting a fun movie in the theater. Everyone knows who Grogu is. I think they may have realized after Mandalorian Season 3 that their best recipe for success here is more of the Mando and Grogu going on missions, as opposed to trying to build up the lore around Mandalorians or any of the other detours that we sort of took then. So this might be a slight way for them to reset that.
I guess to my mind, the big question is, how did they fumble the bag with The Mandalorian as badly as they did? And I'm not saying all of Mando Season 3 was terrible, but pretty much since Season 2 ended, the direction has been all over the place. So cast your mind back to 2020. After Chapter 16 dropped, the last episode of Mando Season 2, we had the most amazing credit scene. Boba Fett and Fennec Shan go to Jabba's palace. It felt like we were returning to the aesthetic of Return of the Jedi. We see Bib Fortuna, the bloated version of course, and Boba shoots him dead, taking the throne. Then we had the text on the screen that went viral that said, "The Book of Boba Fett." And I think it said something like coming December 2021. And at the time we were wondering, well, what does this mean? Is The Mandalorian becoming the Book of Boba Fett? Is that the new show? Does that explain the whole chapter thing? And Jon Favreau said, no, Mando is going to continue, but now Boba Fett has his own spin-off. And so this is what baffles me. They set up the perfect Mandoverse and its spin-offs. They should have had 3 shows. The Mandalorian in its current iteration continues without Grogu, at least just for a bit. So Mando Season 3 should have been Din Djarin and Bo-Katan reuniting Mandalore. No Grogu. Then there should have been a Luke Skywalker dedicated spin-off. You can tie it to Luke's temple, all the stuff in Book of Boba Fett Chapter 6, but you hold off on Grogu reuniting with Din too soon. Even if he still decides to not become a Jedi, you don't reunite them straight away. You hold off. You wait for the movie. And the third spin-off is Book of Boba Fett, separate from Din, separate from Grogu. None of those cameos, you just have it be pure Boba Fett.
I couldn't agree with you more on this point. I think it comes down to the current regime at Lucasfilm and for the leadership at Lucasfilm just didn't really understand their audience.
And one final thing to finish off with, a lot of people have been talking about the villains in this movie. We know Johnny Coyne is confirmed as the main guy, but are we going to see Grand Admiral Thrawn? I don't think he's poised to be a big presence. He might appear at the end, and they'll no doubt refer to him. But because this isn't the Ahsoka show, because this is Jon Favreau, I don't expect him to have a big presence, if any. But because he has returned, and the Shadow Council is now under his control, there should be some mention of him. What do you guys think? What do you make of everything we spoke about? Share your thoughts in the comments down below.